This is Kyle McCord, and you're listening to Austin, Felix, and Matt on the Devy Debate.
Welcome to the Devy Debate. All right, boys, are we ready to debate? Bruno, are you ready to go head-to-head with me?
I am, because I'm going to win this easily, but yeah, I'm ready.
Gotta get my popcorn out here. Hold on.
Whoops.
The bold strategy, Cotton. Let's keep the pace on for
I'm Felix Sharp. I know you didn't think that we would get through this episode without mentioning the name one Zach F. Wilson.
And on the money.
Don't be stubborn.
No doubt.
Pressure, and Wilson recognized it. Streaks straight up the middle, still spinning, dives for the end zone, touchdown. What a great run. His third rushing touchdown of the game. And that one took some skill.
We are watching one of the best college football players in the country.
That's Austin Nate.
In 1 or 2 years of being there, who is going to be that guy? And for me, Bijan Robinson is still going to be that guy.
Back to the ground with Robinson, who spins and then tries to bounce it. A stiff arm, another one as he rides it, keeps his balance. They're going to say step down, but I'm telling you, watch out for Mr. Robinson.
That's Matt Bruning.
General G. Scott Jr. Obviously, I whacked poetic back on the last episode, so I won't do that again here.
And it's Thomas Fields on the carry. Watch out. Justin Fields hails on the 51 yards.
All right, Chris Moxley, get in here. Get in here. What did we get wrong?
Tonight was not your best night, collectively. There were a lot of stats thrown around, so more propensity for error.
Austin, you tweeted something earlier. You tweeted your running back rankings. Explain yourself.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
He jumped up enough.
It did, didn't it?
No. And he does it all the time. He is an awful decision maker, and he's bad enough at it that that's, in my opinion, is not.
I do think that it's going to be, I've got to continue. Kyle McCord is going to end up winning the job. He's going to be rated higher.
Apologies to Kirk Street. We ran out of time. And for Matt Bruning and Austin Nate, I'm Felix Sharp. Good night and good luck.
My bad. I just messed that up.
It's 9:30 and the only time zone that matters. That means it's time for the Devy Debate, brought to you by CampusCan.com. That's Matt Bruning. That's Mr. Mason. I'm Felix Sharp. On a recalcitrant version of tonight's show, Austin tells you who is going to be the next Joe Burrow. Matt tells you where are we going to find the next Zach Wilson, and we go through some takes where we were wrong in 2020. But we start with Colin Decker and his co-host of the Campus to Canton podcast. They have been picked up by fantasy points, and all seriousness, I just want to, Austin, congratulate you and tell you how proud I am and we are of you guys. I'm so appreciative of having both of you as colleagues, and this is a big deal. If you haven't heard the news, Austin and Colin's Campus to Canton podcast is going to be featured within the Fantasy Points family of podcasts. So I can't imagine that you listen to this show and don't listen to that one. But Austin, you and Colin, mostly Colin, deserve it. Just congratulations to you guys.
Yeah, we're excited. So thank you guys. Yeah, thank you guys.
Yes, congratulations. We're excited for both. I mean, me and Felix talk to you about this all the time, but I know your guys' podcast is one of my favorite to listen to. Every time it goes up, Felix pesters you guys when you don't upload it on time. I've sent you texts before because I'm ready for it to download so that I can listen to it in the mornings. I'm just like Felix, very appreciative you guys allowed me to be a part of this, and I can call you guys colleagues. And maybe more Colin than you, Austin, but I can call Colin a friend, so I really appreciate that as well. So, but I'm really happy for you guys. You guys know how much I love Fantasy Points, and the fact that they identified you two as a podcast out of the thousands upon thousands of football podcasts to bring onto their network is huge, and I think it just shows how important you guys are to the college game and in how well respected you guys are in this community. So, congratulations.
Yeah, thanks, guys. We're just excited for all of this. So, C2C to the moon, all of us. So,
all right. But we are starting with N'Keal Harry. He's requested a trade from New England. Harry was, for some, a really dynamic and dominant player at ASU. He had his weaknesses, but I think it's fair to say that he was a dynamic and dominant player. A first-round draft pick in 2018. Went to the combine, was a great size-adjusted athlete, but he is definitely looking like a bust at this point. Austin, what can we take away from N'Keal Harry's profile as talent evaluators moving forward?
I mean, I don't think you can necessarily take anything away from it. I mean, it's definitely made me rethink how I feel about big slot guys, because that's what I pictured him being. We were talking before the show. I dug way into the archives and pulled out that was the first year I did actual scouting reports, was 2019. I brought out my one on Harry, and I mean, I'm gushing about him more or less. He was my wide receiver too, but I did say, I think he's going to be a slot guy at the next level. So maybe I'm a little more hesitant to go after those guys, and maybe it just reminds us that the analytical profiles they help us narrow down, but they're not a certainty. And I think that's a big takeaway, that, people will say, well, he had the better dominator, the better breakout, and that's good. And it weeds out the crappy guys, but it doesn't give you all the great options either. So I think those are the two big things that I'm taking away from this.
And see, I'm not an analytical guy, and I was still high on him because of how dominant I thought he would be as a red zone option. Yes, he wasn't a separator. He was a contested catcher. But at the time, the NFL was I feel like at that point transitioning to the point where they didn't want those guys anymore. They didn't want the contested catchers that had been burned too many times. And even, being a Lions fan, N'Keal Harry reminds me very much of USC's Mike Williams, if anyone's old enough to remember Mike Williams. And Harry's probably even faster and more bursty than Mike Williams, but Mike Williams, dominant freshman, dominant sophomore, and then left, tried to join the NFL with Maurice Clarett. It didn't work out, but was one of these very physical receivers, and it just didn't work out at the NFL level. And so that profile has burned me so much that I tend to fade those types of players, even to the point where I wasn't that high on Ja'Marr Chase, because as good of a player as he is, Ja'Marr Chase is not like an elite separator by any means. He's athletic, but he's not an elite separator. He's somebody who is I'm not sure the word I'm looking for, but he loves contact to the point where he uses it offensively. And that was kind of my hesitation with them because what I've seen with Mike Williams and N'Keal Harry. Mike Williams from Clemson, a very similar player that wants to use his size and catch radius. It just doesn't seem like the NFL is using those types of players anymore. I want to bring in Chris Moxley here because last year, Chris and I talked about N'Keal Harry and what we could take away from his profile, and Chris had some really interesting things to say. So, Chris, what are your takeaways from Harry's profile?
Sure. So, I think Austin said something important earlier that I want to echo here. The best thing that analytics does is it allows us to eliminate unlikely hits. I've always viewed it as narrowing down the player pool to select from. So I think that's what's important with analytics, right? Like we're not trying to identify Harry as a hit. We're trying to identify other players as misses so that we can be more accurate in the entirety of the process. So that's part one, right? The second thing with Harry's profile was that it was fairly stellar, right? Like he was a high-level recruit. He was a top-end wide receiver when he was coming out into college, and then when he was leaving college. I think the big analytics takeaway when we really dive into what happened with the whole N'Keal Harry saga is players who don't fire their rookie year and not fire at all. Like he had opportunity and failed. That's when you move off those players. Those are historically very low hit rates. When you can compare face planting players to rookie picks of the future year, you're far more likely to hit on a future rookie pick than you are a player who face planted. So that's really the way that I think we can analytically take away any sort of lesson from N'Keal Harry's profile. It's hard to really say that he was a likely miss based on his collegiate profile, but year one allows us to really evaluate what happened here and really explain kind of like how we should have moved off N'Keal Harry earlier.
I mean, look at the rookie wide receiver, their physical profiles from this 2021 class. Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Devonta Smith. Rashad Bateman feels like the biggest guy of that bunch. Eli Moore, Rondale Moore. You got Terrence Marshall, who's a bigger guy, but none of them have this 6'4", 220-pound contested catch profile. And it seems like that profile is being absolutely eliminated from the NFL.
So I got a question for you guys, because I don't know, Felix and Chris, where you guys had him. I was pretty close with Austin, it sounds like when that was also one of my first years. I think it was my second year, like trying to grade players and learn how to do all that stuff. I had him as a second round grade when I went back and looked at my stuff, and my biggest thing was that. Granted, take that with a grain of salt. I was big on Hakeem Butler, and obviously he failed as well. He was not good. But I think that the reason Harry got – before the draft, Harry was talked about as a really good player, but he was not the top player in that class, right? Like everybody still had – not DK Metcalf was not up there for a lot of people, but A.J. Brown was like the top wide receiver for most people. I had Metcalf up there. I think Metcalf was 3 for me. I still kept A.J. Brown up at 1. It was when the draft happened that all that shifted. And so I'm curious as to how much you guys put some of this blame on New England, because I still think Harry is a good player. I think he was overdrafted number 1 going in the first round to the Patriots. They don't use him at all in the way that his skill set, it says he does with the contested catches, right? They don't use him that way. And he's only technically been in the league for 2 years, correct? So, I mean, we've seen in the past that sometimes it takes 3 or 4 years for these wide receivers to break out. So are we maybe being too premature in calling him a bust just because he hasn't done anything his first 2 years in New England? We're also think it's fair to say he hasn't exactly had the best chances. He was injured most of the year with Tom Brady, and that offense was piss poor to begin with in Brady's last year in New England. So I'm not the biggest Harry fan, but I'm wondering if maybe everybody who's calling him a bust because he wants a trade, I actually think him wanting the trade is good for his career and the smart move on his part to possibly go somewhere to show us that he still can be at least a viable receiver in the NFL compared to what he's viewed as right now.
So, yeah, I was just going to say from an analytics perspective, right? Like he was my wide receiver 1, fantastic. And I think I did a little too much ignoring of what the film guys were saying and really threw myself into the analytical profile because it was fantastic. The one thing that I will note with Harry in terms of can his career be salvaged is when players lose value post-rookie year, there's 11% hit rate on wide receivers moving forward, and that's as a top 24 wide receiver. So the chance Harry that actually pans out as a productive player for your fantasy team, I think is fairly low.
I think that one thing that should be one takeaway from Harry's career thus far is that situation fit, that matters, because N'Keal Harry was absolutely a hammer that should be used as a hammer. He should have been somebody that you're throwing jump ball fades and everything to. And we've all heard about how complicated the Patriots offense is and how much timing and rhythm it is. That's not the way that you want to use N'Keal Harry. So that's one takeaway that I would have. And again, the fact that profile is just being eliminated from the NFL. Austin, this leads me to believe if we're going to have a problem with N'Keal Harry, Drake London is a very similar player that people are high on. And I don't know. I mean, should N'Keal Harry be a cautionary tale?
Maybe. Do you think I actually like Harry more? Like, so I'm a sucker for a big guy that can return punts and do special teams work, which Harry did. I think my first love was Des Bryant, who did it in college. And that, like, he was a big guy, and they'd put him back there, and he actually did it for the Cowboys. I think his first year or two, maybe
he did.
Yeah. So that's kind of set Harry apart for me. London doesn't do that. I don't know if London has that dynamism with the ball in his hands. And to be honest, I know I get that he's probably going to just smash at USC this year. Like, he's going to be the number one option in a Graham Harrell, Mike Leach disciple offense. It's going to spread the field. He's going to catch, 100 balls. I think they hid him in the slot a little bit. I really do. I think they hid him a little bit. I'm not entirely sure how dynamic of an athlete he is. He can stretch the field from the slot, but that's like, we've talked about that on this show before. I'm not sure how much the NFL wants that skill set anymore. Like, I don't think a lot of teams run an offense where you're stretching the field necessarily from the slot. They're usually using boundary guys to do that. And I don't know if he can play on the boundary. So it is, but I don't even think London is the level of prospect that Harry. Like, I wouldn't even put them in the same bucket, to be completely honest. And it sounds stupid saying that now, but
yeah, no, I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. And people have Drake London very, very high in their draft rankings. We might want to watch out for that. Bernie, do you think Mike Evans, would he have been a first-round pick in 2020?
Oh, God, that's the wrong person to ask, because I'm not a big fan of Mike Evans to begin with. Probably not. I would say he's probably a second or third round pick. I see Moxley reacting in the background to that statement there. I just don't believe – I don't know. Everybody has that player they don't like, right? That's just Mike Evans for me. I'm horrible. It's like asking me to talk negatively about the Ohio State University. It's very hard to do, and it's very hard for me to talk positive about Mike Evans. I will say – I raised my hand because of Drake London. I do. I think I have him the highest on our site. I think I have him at 8. I'm the only one in the top 10, I believe, when I was talking to Kane about that the other day. I do think he has a little bit more athleticism than he's given credit for. I do worry a little bit about him going to the NFL. I don't usually make major changes and shifting in my rankings after players find out where they're landing in the NFL draft. He is one of those players for me that could shift a couple spots based on where he goes if I don't think the team can utilize him that well. But with Mike Evans, no, I do think he would likely – I mean, he was still a good prospect coming out, but I would think he would have been – with the way especially wide receivers go nowadays, they seem to go for more of the speed guys. I think he would be probably like a high-end second-round pick.
The one that I'm having trouble with, Austin, is Dez Bryant. I mean – late career Dez Bryant most definitely was not a separator, but I can't remember whether or not early, rookie first, second year Dez Bryant had enough juice to give the NFL what they want right now. I mean, Dez, because of his college career and getting suspended, he fell in the draft. But I even wonder if Dez Bryant would be a first-round draft pick in today's NFL.
I think he would, because he was a boundary guy. Like, that was my thing with Harry. And I guess maybe I should have weighed that as because I kind of viewed them similarly, but I always said that I thought Harry was a slot guy. So maybe that should have dinged him a little harder than it did. Whereas, that's why I had him second to AJ Brown, because I thought AJ Brown could play every single wide receiver position if he had to.
Well, audience, let us know what you think. What are the takeaways from N'Keal Harry's profile? What should we learn? There's a question posted right now on the Devy Debate Twitter page. So go to Devy Debate on Twitter and let us know your thoughts. We had a 5-star review, a very complimentary 5-star review come in from M. Erickson. I think that is Michael Erickson, who's in the Discord. We would appreciate the 5-star reviews. We give a lot of do a lot of giveaways, but this is what Michael had to say. One of my main shows that I look forward to listening to every Thursday morning, entertaining and informative on Devy and C2C topics. A must listen for fantasy football enthusiasts. So that's great. That's great. But Matt, we are out there looking for a commenter who won this Javonte Williams jersey. Who are we looking for?
So on the Apple reviews, they did not leave their Twitter or email or actual name for us to try and get in contact with them. They just left their Apple name, which is Mr. Raw. So if you're listening to this, they happened to be one of the very first reviews we got. It was a really nice review, 5-star review back, I believe, in December, where we had only been podcasting together for 3 or 4 weeks. So it was one of the very first reviews we got. Hopefully you're still listening. So if your Apple name, whether it was you who did it or your wife did it, is Mr. Raw, MISTARAW, reach out to us at devydebate@gmail.com so we can get you set up. We can get your address and everything. We can get the jersey sent to you. We're going to give you another week. If we don't hear from you, we will likely do a redraw within the next couple of weeks and send it out to somebody else. Apologize about that, but it's burning a hole in my desk over here. I got to get rid of it. So,
Mr. Raw, reach out to us. Reach out to us on Twitter. Reach out to us on Gmail, wherever one, so we can get you this jersey. All right. So one of our main topics for today is swings and misses. We do a lot of talking. We give a lot of takes, and we are often wrong, Matt, more often than me or Austin. But we wanted to highlight some of the missed takes that we had this last season. So, Matt, since you had so many, why don't you start us off with one of yours?
And when you say wrong, as in like I'm so wrong, I'm right. So yes, I'm probably the smartest guy on the show. As we saw Peter Schrager and my best friend Kyle Shanahan help me on their podcast. I don't think either one of you have podcasted with Kyle Shanahan or Peter Schrager. So let's calm down there, Felix, with the being wrong all the time. I'm gonna take 3. I mean, the last one's going to be pretty big. I'm going to shock the world with the last one. But the first one, Jamar Jefferson. Obviously, if you guys have been listening to this show since we started, I was big on him. I had him going into the draft season as my RB4, getting drafted in the 7th round and going to the Detroit Lions as well to kind of be there with DeAndre Swift. It's not great for him being the RB4 in this class overall. I still think he's better than what he got drafted on, but clearly my love of his vision, his contact balance, and his speed behind the line, his lateral agility did not pan out the way I thought it was going to be. So Jamar Jefferson was definitely one of my bigger L's to take this year.
Which I think we told you. I mean, we said he was a non-athlete. It seems like you like a lot of these running backs with vision and no athleticism. So we'll see. Who's next? Am I next? Or
I think you're next.
Oh, I'm next. It's funny because all of my wide receivers fit a similar profile.
Yeah, exactly.
I was really high on a number of wide receivers that I'll talk about today. The first one of which was Warren Jackson, the huge 6'6" wide receiver out of Colorado State. I assumed that whatever deficiencies that he would have with speed and athleticism, he could just make up with his size. I mean, he was one of PFF's highest graded wide receivers his junior year, opted out last year. That seems to have been a mistake. But just a guy that you could throw anywhere in his area code and he would be able to grab it. Was not the most athletic, and I knew that, but I thought that the NFL would value the traits that he brought, and the traits that the one thing that he could do well is just throw the ball near him and he could grab it. But that wasn't the case, and he wasn't drafted, and then was picked up by the Broncos. And I'll say this though, the Broncos have had some good luck with taking local undrafted free agents. So I'm not going to write Warren Jackson off just yet, but he was one of I think he was in my top 10 wide receivers and then wasn't drafted. So that was one of mine.
I'll also just add, I'm pretty sure at least my 2 guys got drafted. So go ahead, Austin.
Yeah. I love that your guys are all Felix receivers. It's amazing. I said that when I looked at the list. I was like, yep, that's a Felix receiver. So my first one's Jaden Daniels. I had him as my QB3. Actually, I might have had him as my QB2 just by default because we hadn't seen Rattler play at all. Yeah. Coming into the year. I assumed incorrectly that he could actually gain weight. I don't know how to understand how, especially like a quarterback, can't gain weight. Like, you don't have to be the most athletic guy out there. Just eat a couple burgers. I don't get it. But I assumed that he could gain some weight, and he really didn't. And then he just didn't really take a step this year, kind of like Slovis. You grade a guy a certain way as a freshman because you think that he's going to, you're projecting over the next couple of years. And he wasn't more. I thought he could fine-tune his ball placement, his accuracy a little bit. He didn't really do it. He's got the tools. I think he's kind of what the NFL wants now. He's not a huge rusher, but he's mobile enough. I think people make that misconception about him that he's like a huge runner. He's not, but he's more than mobile enough. He's got the nice arm. I'm cautiously optimistic that he bounces back a little bit this year. But I would have taken him. I think I took him like early second round in a C2C startup last year. I don't think I would take him. Well, I mean, I'm Mr. Zero QB, but I don't think I would take him before like the fourth round now. I took one quarterback, and all of a sudden I'm supposed to be some crazy hypocrite over here.
But you wanted to take two. You can't forget that part. That's what matters. You wanted to take two.
You have no proof. You have no proof.
Oh, I have the proof. I have the proof.
Jaden Daniels is interesting just because of the skill set that he brings. I mean, if Malik Willis is going to get first round hype, I don't think it's going to be this year for Jaden Daniels, but next year, I think we could see the same thing for him. So I wouldn't write him off just yet. But we'll see. He does need to add some weight. We don't know what's going to happen there at Arizona State with Herm Edwards and Antonio Pierce. Their jobs kind of being in jeopardy. Matt, is there another running back that you whiffed on?
Yes. As we learned in our draft, you guys got to check out our draft profile shows. Hopefully we'll do those again this year. We talked about it. Austin is definitely one of the guys who Felix, you did a really good job scouting the running backs. Austin loves his wide receivers. So when you hear me talk about running backs, you should do the opposite of what I tell you. Although I do still think he's got a shot. Khalil Herbert was another guy I was high on. I did only have him as RB8, so I wasn't propping him up as high as I was propping Jamar Jefferson. He did get drafted, goes to the Chicago Bears. I do, unfortunately, think as long as Tariq Cohen's there, he's not going to have much role on that team. But Cohen may be gone in 2 years, so Khalil Herbert might have some kind of role there, but he's not at least what I was hoping. I thought he could get like 4th or 5th round draft capital. I think he got drafted in the 6th. I want to say he went ahead of Jamar, but still not what I would hope for. Didn't pump him up as much as I did Jamar Jefferson, but that's definitely another L. Sorry to Brandon Hay as well, because he reached out to me. We had like a long like after dark conversation, sipping on some nice drinks, just chatting about our love for Khalil Herbert, and that did not work out at all.
I feel like you compared him to Nick Chubb. And
no, that was Javonte. Austin backed me up. It was Javonte Williams.
I feel like you might have compared two people.
I did the freshman profile on Herbert. That wasn't even Matt that did it.
Yeah,
so.
All right,
it wasn't even me. Yeah. You just love to throw me under the bus. You just love to throw me under the bus and make me look wrong all the time, even when I'm not. It was Javonte I compared to Nick, which again, probably not the best comparison, but at least it's better than me comparing Khalil Herbert to Nick Chubb.
Well, when I throw you under the bus, it feels like I'm throwing the entire state of Ohio under the bus, which makes
that's true. So, anyways, let's hear about this wide receiver that was coming out of Florida State that was the next Randy Moss, Felix, because I'm pretty sure that's the next guy on your list. So, come on, let's hear about him.
Did I say that? Did I say he was Randy Moss? Listen, Tamarion Terry
I'll dig up the profile.
He had the physical tools, but I mean, he had a little Aaron Hernandez in him too, obviously. So I think that's why he fell. I don't think that there's any question that he was toolsy. He was inconsistent, but he didn't run as fast as he should have at his pro day. I mean, he ran a 4.46. We expected that guy to be a sub 4.0, especially when he ran like 22 miles per hour in high school, or allegedly was timed at that. I'll tell you what, I'm not trusting any of those mile per hour things anymore. I mean, I thought that he would be a sub. But inconsistent hands, had a really good redshirt sophomore season, but obviously there were some things in his background that led him to fall. And then he also was picked up by a team that is known for developing undrafted free agents and even starting some of those guys, lower round guys in the Seattle Seahawks. But, I mean, he went from me touting him to he's probably never going to play a down in the NFL. So I missed on Tamarion Terry. What are you going to say? I mean,
the nice part is that you can just blame it on the prison stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll never know. We'll never know what could have been.
I mean,
yeah.
What are you going to do? Yeah. So
that's the new Felix receiver. They end up in jail. So my second guy is I went younger for this because this is already a take that I regret, and I'm sorry if people have drafted based on it because I'm pretty sure they have. So Caleb Williams, I was way too low on Caleb Williams coming in. Now he's not like my QB1 or anything, but I think I slightly understated just the fact that he's going to go to that offense at Oklahoma and just destroy everybody there. He looked solid in the spring game. I think they did a really good job of kind of playing within what he can do. And I think Lincoln Riley will do that with him. Like, I think he'll play within what he can do. I mean, he got Jalen Hurts drafted in the mid-second round. And what did we think of Jalen Hurts before he got there? So I undersold the Lincoln Riley effect with him. I will never do that again. So I was very wrong in Caleb Williams, and I'm already apologizing for that one.
It took about 2 plays of Caleb Williams in that spring game for me to go, oh snap! Like, this is we were all wrong on Caleb Williams.
He might be the best runner I've ever seen. And I did say that coming out of high school. Like, he's just a different level of athlete for the position. But I still have like a few doubts about his throwing. But I'm going to trust on Lincoln Riley at this point.
Yeah. I mean, I think he was a career 50% completion percentage passer in high school, somewhere around there. But I mean, looked very, very efficient and very dangerous in that spring game. You want to talk about Malik Willis being a dual threat quarterback? If Malik Willis has any successors in a first round draft pick, I don't see how Caleb Williams is a first round draft pick coming out of Oklahoma, even if he's like a 60%, 61% passer somewhere around there. But with Lincoln Riley,
thing. Riley won't let him be a 60% passer. He'll give him stuff that'll get it up to 65, 66, 67%. He will.
No, I agree with you.
I really was hoping
you got anybody else?
Yeah, so I'm gonna take.
I'm not wrong yet on that. I'm not wrong yet.
I'm gonna take. It's gonna be a hard one for me. So, and I know I'm not gonna get any support from you assholes. So this is gonna be a big one. I'm just gonna go ahead. I'm gonna take my L. I was wrong on G. Scott Jr. I was wrong. Clearly, he's not gonna be the second best wide receiver to JSN on that team. He's obviously gone to tight end. I still think he has a shot, but he's got to go out and prove it now. There's still a lot of questions around that, right? Can he get the weight up? Felix. It's funny because if you go back and listen to our first episodes, I go on and, like, as I say in the intro, wax poetic about G. Scott Jr. And then Felix, like, follows right up behind me. It's like, if you want to see a tape on how to run routes, go put on G. Scott Jr. He still has a lot of talent. Can he transition to a tight end, and can he do that at the NFL level? There's still a lot of questions around that. But again, if you go back to our early days on the show, there's a lot of, the debates between the three of us, with Austin talking about JSN, me, G. Scott Jr., Felix, Julian Fleming, and clearly G. Scott Jr. is not going to be a wide receiver anymore. So if I have to stay on brand with the show, it's probably the biggest L I'm going to take at this point. I'm going to go ahead and take it, G. Scott Jr.
That was basically our first big debate.
It was, yeah.
It came up accidentally.
Yeah, that was a good one. And then mine obviously was a wide receiver that I was high on. Again, I think Warren and Watkins were in my top 10. Man, Austin Watkins. First of all, I thought he was 6'3". Don't ever trust UAB's height and weight profiles anymore. They just absolutely lie. He was listed as 6'3", 205 his junior year or his sophomore year. I thought he would be 6'3", 215, somewhere around there. Goes to the Senior Bowl. He measures in at 6'1", about 200. So much smaller than I thought. And then just wasn't. The NFL wasn't really looking for him. I thought that he would be kind of a really good deep threat, a bigger body deep threat, but he wasn't. And Austin Watkins, I believe, is a UDFA for San Francisco, so there's a chance that he could make that roster. I mean, you got Ayuk there and Debo, and the guy who transferred from Tennessee who became a running back and then a wide receiver. I can't remember. I mean, there's going to be some spot. Who am I talking about? Who's that? The running back, the big running back from Tennessee who transferred to Baylor.
Jalen Hurd is a big guy.
Jalen Hurd. Jalen Hurd. Yeah. Jalen Hurd. Thank you, Chris Moxley. Well, I forgot where he transferred to, but
he went to Baylor.
Oh, did he? Okay.
That's what I thought. Anyway, there's some spots there. He can make the team, but it doesn't seem like he's going to be kind of that X wide receiver that I thought he was going to be. So, sorry, Austin Watkins. Sorry.
Hey, Luke, G. Scott Jr. is still in the promo. I'll never take that out because that's still my guy. It's just
we both commented, Felix and I, in the private chat on here. It says, I'm not going to wax poetic about G. Scott, And there's no G. Scott place for him to play after that.
Not yet.
Felix and
Once
I at the
it
same
happens.
time.
Once it happens.
If you are watching
they'll make
this,
way in
if
the
you are
intro.
watching, if you're listening to the podcast, check out the YouTube. The intro contains highlights of all the players that we talk about, except for G. Scott, because there are no G. Scott highlights. So
Yeah.
Well, it's
got
also just
Zach
'cause,
Wilson.
I mean,
It's got
let's just be
Bijan.
honest. That Justin Fields highlight is phenomenal, though. I mean, Gus Johnson's call. I mean, every time. That's what that part gets me hyped every time I hear that 51. Hello Columbus. I fucking love it. It gets me pumped. I start throwing shit. It's anyway. Sorry. Continue, Austin.
No, that was all. I was content to listen to you keep talking about that if you wanted to. So my last one here is Sage Surratt, who I was very wrong on. I had him as my wide receiver 8 going into the preseason this year. I had him amongst De'Ami Brown. Where'd it go here? I pulled up like all my rankings for the past 4 years in preparation to the show. It was awesome. I had him sandwiched between Tamorrion Terry and De'Ami Brown. So one's not very good, and then the other one's De'Ami Brown. And we'll leave it at that. But I pulled up my report on Surratt, and another guy that I thought was going to be a big slot, and I think I just undersold. And he's not as good of an athlete as N'Keal Harry, but strong hands, not great after the catch. And I kind of mentioned those things, but I do always try to say, like, I try to scout what they can do and what they can't do. But I think I just overstated what he can do. I would have liked to see him because my summary says I can't wait to see him in 2021 to see if he can work on XYZ. And then obviously we didn't get it 2020 or 2021 or whatever. So, but he's not going to do anything in the NFL. I was totally wrong on him. So.
It'll be interesting to go back and look through all of our rankings for this, for this year and determine who are going to be the guys that we're wrong on moving forward. Speaking of moving forward, let's give ourselves some more opportunities to be wrong. Javonte Williams, Joe Burrow, Zach Wilson were all players who kind of came as a surprise to us late. And we want to attempt to call out the next Javonte Williams, Joe Burrow, and Zach Wilson. Let's start with Javonte. Now, he didn't do much as a freshman, very productive as a sophomore and junior. But then in his junior year is where he really picked it up, averaging 7.6 yards per carry, just adding those explosive plays. This big physical running back who's hard to bring down, can also catch the ball, a natural hands catcher. So who are we starting with here? Who, Austin, do you think could be the next this year's or whenever the next Javonte Williams?
I think Zonovan Knight has a ton of parallels with Javonte Williams, a guy that is in a split backfield but is a similar size to Javonte Williams. And it can catch like him. I mean, last year, Williams had 20 catches, 136 yards, which is, just as many catches as Javonte had his sophomore year and only a few fewer than he had his junior year. The thing about Zonovan that I just don't really understand is why he's in a split backfield in the first place, because Ricky Person is the other guy and he's just not very good. So I'm not sure, like, if he was in the doghouse last year or like the coaching staff just doesn't want to use one back. Because you watch them and you can clearly see the difference, in my opinion, between the two guys. But I did pull up Jarek's magic line for this, and I put Zonovan and Javonte on it. And the metric that I used was backfield dominator rating, which is basically I double checked with Jarek and Chris before the show just to make sure that I didn't totally butcher this. And Chris said that, and I quote, "It is basically the percentage of the running back's production compared to other running backs on the team." So looking at the magic line, as freshman, Knight outperformed Williams by quite a bit. And then their sophomore years, Javonte's right on the line and Zonovan's just below him. So they were very, very similar there, their second year. And then Javonte finished slightly above it as a junior. I think Zonovan can follow that same arc. So I think he fits this question to a T perfectly. So Zonovan Knight is my answer.
Yeah, another split backfield guy, at least last year, is Jashaun Corbin, transferring from Texas A&M to Florida State, splitting the backfield with Lawrence Tuafili and LaDamian Webb. It sounds like he has emerged as kind of a camp leader this season, and he's very versatile. Return kicks at Texas A&M, can catch the ball, has the requisite size. But that Florida State offense has been terrible the last couple of years, but they're adding McKenzie Milton. So you're adding McKenzie Milton to that team. Maybe he'll open it up a little bit for the backfield. I like the tools in that package, in his height, weight. He has ideal size for the position. And Jashaun Corbin is a player that I've called out before, and I believe friend of the show, Kevin Coleman, is also pretty high on Jashaun Corbin and him potentially breaking out this year. So my player is Jashaun Corbin.
Yeah, so I'm going with Tyler Algier, the redshirt junior out of BYU. He redshirted his freshman season, came back in his sophomore, technically I guess his redshirt freshman year. Came back and played running back and linebacker. Last year he had a little bit of a breakout. You know, Felix was talking about him when he was doing all of his waxing poetic on Zach Wilson all last year. But I think that's why he's being overlooked a little bit, is because of what Zach Wilson was able to do on the field, kind of impressing people, now going as the number 2 pick in the NFL draft. But Algier has it all. He's a patient runner. He uses his physicality. He's elusive for his size, coming in at 5'11", 220. And he has breakaway speed as well, which I think is a big differentiator between him and Javonte. Javonte's not running away from defenders, where Tyler Algier can actually do that at his size. And he has the breakaway speed, as I just mentioned, and receiving ability. So in my opinion, Algier is a true three-down threat going into the NFL. Last year, he finished 13th in missed forced tackles with 43. He finished 7th in explosive plays, with which is 10 or more yards on a run, which was ahead of players such as Isaiah Spiller, who had 39 more carries than Algier, Kyron Williams, who had 62 more carries, and Travis Etienne, who had 17 more carries. Algier also had the least amount of carries out of all the RBs in the top 15 of that metric of the explosive yards for 10 more yards. And then lastly, he finished 5th in runs for 15-plus yards, and with 21 altogether, only behind Michael Carter, Javonte Williams, Breece Hall, and Sincere McCormick. The last thing this year will be how much and how well does he play possibly in the receiving game now that Zach Wilson is gone. I think that's going to be a big key for him. BYU does have some pretty good defenses on their schedule this year. They've got the full season. Zach Wilson not being there, in my opinion, Tyler Algier's probably going to be the focus of the defenses that they play. So how well can he continue to play? But I think what he can do receiving-wise and running, I think kind of comps him very well to Javonte. Much like Austin, I did the magic line thing. Did not obviously anything really his freshman or redshirt freshman year, because he did play some time on defense. But then last year he finished just below the line, where Javonte finished just above it. So I do think this year, if he doesn't split with, and I don't know how to, Chris told me how to say the dude's name, and I already forgot how to say it. Lopini Katoa, I think, who actually had a lot more work than I expected when me and Chris were talking a lot about this pre-show, with the 84 carries and 23 catches. So that kind of moved him up on the backfield dominator as well, which I plugged in after Austin. You were talking about it with Jarek and Chris in the chat. I plugged it in as well. And so Algier falls a little bit in that because of how much the guy I just mentioned, because of how much work he was just getting with BYU. So that worries me a little bit, but I think Algier is a guy who could easily get that day 2 draft capital if he comes out and smashes again this year like he did last year.
I think 3 players for BYU's offense made money last year. Skill position players made money for themselves last year. Obviously, Zach Wilson, Tyler Algier, and then Isaac Rex, the tight end, all had really good seasons. Austin, since you mentioned Zonovan Knight, I want to just throw out a name out there. Jordan Houston, who's the third back there, a smaller scat back, 190 pounds, has home run speed. I would really like to see him get an opportunity for North Carolina State. All right, Joe Burrow, 4-star, transfer from Ohio State, okay as a redshirt junior, and then explodes as a redshirt senior, coinciding with Joe Brady's arrival from New Orleans to LSU as the passing game coordinator and wide receivers coach. Joe Burrow definitely came out of nowhere. So this is absolutely, in my opinion, somewhat of a dart throw. Austin, where are you throwing that dart?
Yeah, so when I really thought about this distinction between the next Joe Burrow and the next Zach Wilson, because they're definitely different profiles. Burrow, for people, and I wasn't on him, so like I'm not trying to like pat myself on the back here. For people that were really paying attention, I think some people kind of knew that there might be something there with Burrow. His last 4 games, people like to joke when he took that huge hit against Alabama or Auburn or whatever, and it like knocked him in the next year. He came back from that and then was just amazing. Like something snapped in his brain and he was great. The last 4 games of his junior year there, over 65% completion percentage in basically all of them, multiple touchdowns in every single game, 307, 270, 394 yards. I mean, the guy was electric down the stretch. So there was something there that I think, you could find. And that's why my guy is Caleb Ellaby. Kalamazoo, stand up. There you go, Felix. You're welcome. Says it every time that I mention Caleb Ellaby. He texts me and says, say the words. So there's the words. Kalamazoo, stand up. Western Michigan quarterback last year as a sophomore in 6 games, completed about 65% of his passes, 1,700 yards, 18 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. I get it. The MAC is not great defenses, but he's just got great ball placement. He's very, very accurate. If you go watch, and what kind of brought him to my attention last year was I was really high on Dwayne Eskridge. And if you go watch Eskridge's tape, part of what made Eskridge so effective, besides the fact that he's just, fast as shit and, elusive, is that the ball placement on all those passes was perfect for him to maximize yards after catch, especially a lot of those where he'll just run like a little slant. And Ellaby hits him timing wise and location perfect for him to just kind of split the over the top coverage before he can get there. I think he might be one of the best guys in the class in terms of accuracy next year. His arm is adequate. It's not a cannon, but I think it's okay. And he's kind of mobile, but also not really. He had 91 rush yards on 21 attempts last year once you take out sacks. So not great. And he doesn't look particularly athletic. I mean, there are some instances of him scrambling, but it's not, you're not like, whoa, watch out. We got, Speedy over here. But I just think that he's going to perform well again this year in the MAC, and he still brings back 2 good receivers in Sky Moore and Jalen Hall. So he could be a guy that sneaks into first round conversation. I don't know if he's ever in play for the 101, but it's a possibility for first round.
Love that name. Western Michigan University. I grew up attending those games. Caleb Ellaby's coach, Tim Lester. When I was in Rocket football, Tim Lester was throwing touchdowns to Steve Neal. I don't know how I still remember these names. My player has not yet acquired any stats, but he is a player that I liked as a true freshman, a 4-star prospect out of Connecticut. It's Miami's 2nd or 3rd string quarterback, Tyler Van Dyke. Now, his story is going to be similar to Joe Burrow's in the fact that he's probably going to be buried on the depth chart. Jake Garcia looked really good in the spring game, a really strong arm freshman quarterback. The guy was supposed to go to USC, but so did Tyler Van Dyke. Tyler Van Dyke looked also good, big athletic player. Joe Burrow was 6'4", 200 pounds. Tyler Van Dyke is 6'4", 212 pounds. Joe Burrow was a 4-star prospect, a 90 overall grade. Tyler Van Dyke, a little bit ahead of him, 91 overall grade. He's a player that I've gravitated towards because he has some of that pocket mobility in a bigger frame. I'm always talking about size. But then again, he just looked aggressive and accurate in the spring game. And it's not, first of all, De'Aaron King is probably going to be, he might be ready for the season. If not, it's not clear that Tyler Van Dyke is going to start. They might give that to Jake Garcia. But then they also have Jakari, I don't know, how do you say it? Jakari Brown, a dual threat quarterback who was at the Elite 11 competition coming in there. So that quarterback room is getting really crowded, but I think Tyler Van Dyke is a really talented player. Now, the thing is Joe Burrow's rise coincided with Joe Brady being at LSU. And so he went to an offense. He had an offensive system installed that really emphasized his strengths and the strengths of that LSU team. That remains to be seen with Tyler Van Dyke. Went to Miami. It appears that the second choice was Syracuse. That makes sense since he's from that northeastern area. But I mean, I can't remember the guy's name, but he has a YouTube page. He's a Miami fan. He coach. Poor little Timmy. That's his. I can't remember his name. Anyway, he believes that Tyler Van Dyke could potentially transfer and be very successful with his next school. So Tyler Van Dyke is my player.
So I'm going to go with Phil Jerkovich, I believe is how you say his last name. He was a 95 overall rated with a 4-star, so a little bit better than Joe Burrow. And somewhat similar kind of paths here. I mean, he goes to Notre Dame, is a highly recruited prospect. And, I mean, I guess maybe if he was a fan of this show, and we were doing this obviously before he committed to Notre Dame, he would have listened to Austin and been like, hey, if you're a good quarterback or just a good skill position in general, don't go to Notre Dame because they're not going to use you right. He ends up transferring out, ends up at Boston College last year. And that was when he really got his first shot at being a starter. And I thought at times was impressive. And you'll hear my key difference here with them. The two major differences is for Jerkovich, I think he has a better arm than Joe Burrow. He's got more velocity on it. He can go downfield better than Burrow. And I think overall just his arm talent is better. Where the difference is on Burrow is just 10 times more consistent and a much better anticipatory thrower. Like Jerkovich, I don't know if that's in his wheelhouse right now. He definitely struggled with that last year. But you see the flashes. He's definitely got the upside. The last year was his first year in that offense with Jeff Hafley. I did like what Jeff Hafley was able to do at The Ohio State University. So maybe the second year in, if we can see Jerkovich take a big step forward. It's hard to say anybody's going to be Joe Burrow, just to put that qualifier out there. I mean, Felix, you just mentioned it with Joe Brady. I mean, if you go look at Jarek's magic line on anything quarterback and put Joe Burrow in there, they had to create an extra part at the top of the page for what Joe Burrow did that year. Like it was not, I don't even think you could argue. It's the best offensive performance we've seen ever in college football. So I just saying Jerkovich, and he kind of is coming from the same route and having to transfer, being a high-end recruit, going to although LSU is not a lower school compared to what Boston College is, but LSU is not what it was before Joe Burrow made it that it's been a while since they were that successful. I think Jerkovich could kind of jump up there if he has a really good year this year with Boston College, especially with the ACC in all essence kind of being down this year. So if he can lead Boston College on a pretty good run, he's got to be more consistent. That's going to be the main thing I want to watch this year, if he can be more consistent down the stretch. Because his ADOT wasn't great last year. It was just 10.6. And overall had a 60.8 completion percentage and only finished top 30 in everything else advanced stat-wise, which is not what you want to see. But down the stretch, there was a couple of games where he was rocking in like 40% completion percentages. I know he was hurt a little bit, but still needs to be more consistent.
Yeah, the truth is there probably isn't a next Joe Burrow, but we try anyway.
And Pittsburgh stand up on Jerkovich. Just saying. Pine Ridge High School.
Zach Wilson really shot up. He had a similar ascendance up draft boards after having a dominant junior season there at BYU. Top 30 player, started as a freshman, finished strong as a junior after having a down sophomore year. But I've talked a lot about Zach Wilson. You could see the tools and the skill set that made him a first-round pick in his freshman season. He almost came back against a last-minute drive against Boise State his freshman year. His freshman year, he went 18 for 18 against Western Michigan University, 4 touchdowns, and was like throwing the ball lasers down the field. So that skill set was there. Austin, is there a player that you think could be potentially the next Zach Wilson? I'd be very interested to hear that because I love me some Zach Wilson. Yeah, so
for me, when I was trying to think about this had to be somebody that flashed and then we just totally wrote off. There's not a big pool. It's like Bo Nix, who you couldn't pay me to talk. Well, you could. If someone wants to pay me to talk about Bo Nix, but I don't want to talk about him. And there's a couple other guys, but no one that really gets me jazzed. So I guess the guy that is most enticing would be Brock Purdy at Iowa State. And he didn't even have as bad of a year last year as people want to remember. But I think he did himself no favors going out in that first game of the year where Iowa State was supposed to be a pretty good team last year. They went out against ULL, and he just totally crapped the bed. He completed 45% of his passes, 145 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, and they lost. And I think that kind of just at that point, everybody said, oh, yeah, right, Felix. I think you don't say ULL, you just say UL. a priest or something corrected you on that. My apologies to all our Raging Cajun fans. But he rebounded decently well after. He didn't play that well against Oklahoma in week 3. But then, the rest of the season, he put up, really nice completion percentage. It was 74%, 67, 62, 80, 69, 87, 67 against Oklahoma the second time. He rebounded against Oklahoma that second game, even if, he threw a touchdown and 3 interceptions, but he kept them in that game. He played well. But he's got some NFL traits. He's got the arm. I've called him for 2 years now, discount Jake Locker. He's got that weird movement style and it's like oddly physical and like kind of lumbering, but like also kind of not. So I've just been calling him discount Jake Locker. I think it kind of fits. But I think he can bounce back this year. Iowa State brings back a lot of that team. They're going to compete. All it takes is for him to come out and beat Oklahoma or something this year. And I think, there are some people that flip the other way on him. So, again, not a guy, not like I'm not projecting Caleb Ellaby to go 101. I'm not projecting Brock Purdy to go 102, but I think he could be in the first round mix or, early second round, depending on what happens this year.
And Brock Purdy is going to be is he a 5th-year starter or 4th-year starter?
4th-year starter.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's played a lot of football. My player is going to be someone who I personally believe is going to play a lot of football, even though Austin has called him a game manager. But we talk about Zach Wilson. He started as a true freshman. This player started as a redshirt freshman, was a 67% completion percentage, 67% completion percentage passer in the SEC as a redshirt freshman, and flashed. That's Connor Bazelak. We've seen Missouri put a quarterback recently into the NFL. He's going to throw the ball a lot and have a lot of opportunities to showcase his talent. They're probably going to be from behind. But we like Mookie Cooper. We like Tyler Batty. And I like that offense. And I like the fact that he is a redshirt freshman starting. He's going to play a lot of football, and he's just someone to monitor. Like, I think that if you would have noticed Zach Wilson early on, you would have said, okay, this is somebody that we need to keep tabs on. Now, Connor Bazelak only had 7 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, but I'm keeping tabs on this player given the way he played last season, his first as a starter. So Connor Bazelak is my potential next Zach Wilson, but we'll have to wait 1 or 2 more years for him to declare for the draft.
So I went with Grant Wells, redshirt sophomore out of Marshall. Tried to find a guy much like those two did, a little bit lower and not expected to do much. And I think kind of what Austin just mentioned and Felix, and he showed a lot in one game. The very first game of the season last year, prime time, was like everybody was excited, right? College football's back. There wasn't a lot of games on. It was a primetime game on ESPN. Dude was out there gripping and ripping it. I mean, he was making NFL throws in that game. Grant, I don't even remember who they played in that game. What was it? Eastern Kentucky. So obviously probably not the best defense in the world, but still, in my opinion, was making NFL throws and actually looked good outside of the game against Appalachian State, I think, which was week 2 for them. They still ended up going 7-0 to start off the season. Ended up hitting like a 3-week layoff because of COVID, comes back and just shit the bed. And, I think we've talked about it either on air or in one of the after shows because Felix brought up how bad they looked. I think it was in the bowl game against UAB. He did not, or Buffalo. I'm sorry, Buffalo. The game against UAB, they ended up playing, or he played decent, but not great. But in that game against Buffalo, he was horrible. And I still think he's got great deep ball accuracy. He's got great velocity on all his throws to all areas of the field. He can throw from different arm slots. I'd say he's slightly above average with his legs. He's not a negative, but he's not going to outrun you to the end zone. He can use his legs to buy time, maybe get you a couple yards, but most of the time he's moving out of the pocket to find players down the field. Again, I mentioned he started 7-0. He was 16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions in that time with 1,672 passing yards. Mentioned they hit that struggle, and he just kind of everything went off the rails. He threw 5 interceptions in one game. So he's a bit undersized. The ending of the season last year was definitely worrisome. Something we could have talked about with Zach Wilson, although some of that I think came with the shoulder injury that sophomore year and limited him some. I think he had 11 touchdowns, 9 interceptions that year. Wilson did because of the injury. But I think he's made NFL throws if you go out and watch him on the tape. I think if he comes out and produces the next 2 years, he has a chance to be drafted. He finished top 20 in a couple of the big QB stats. The one that stood out to me, big-time throws, where he finished with a 22 of them and a 7.6 percentage. His ADOT was 11.5, which was 21st at quarterback. So he had a really good season overall. I want to see him be more consistent. He's a guy that maybe in that 2023 class can come up and shine outside of DJU and Bryce Young.
So our next, Javonte Williams, Joe Burrow, and Zach Wilson. Let us know what you think. Again, at Devy Debate on Twitter. For Javonte Williams, we've picked Donovan Knight, Jayshon Corbin, and Tyler Algier. For Joe Burrow, Caleb Elby, Tyler Van Dyke, and Phil Jurkovich. And for Zach Wilson, Brock Purdy, Connor Bazelak, and Grant Wells. Do we get it right? Do we get it wrong? Do you guys some other players that you think should be mentioned here at Devy Debate on Twitter? All right, Chris Moxley, get in here. We did fine tonight, right? How did we do?
The overall stats game has been upped by y'all, so applause all around. I will say the unofficial points race, which has become a hot topic of conversation among the Devy Debate crew, was once again won by Colin, as he is dragging Austin along with him to their fantasy points gig on the CDC pod. Canvas Life and KM Bound both found on the CDC feed and on fantasy points moving forward. I will say that I have to come to Mike Evans' defense as well. He is the only wide receiver to start his career with 7 straight 1,000-yard seasons, even if Matt doesn't like him. Fairly historic. And for a little fun fact to end the show, Dez Bryant in 2017, which was his last season in Dallas, had more yards of separation per target than A.J. Green, Julio Jones, and DeAndre Hopkins.
Look at the facts, man, coming out swinging. Check out all of the content around the Campus to Canton family. Be sure to catch the Campus to Canton podcast feed, where you can find this podcast, Campus Life, Canton Bound, Fantasy Roundtable, and Why Wait Till Sunday. That is going to be our show for tonight. Apologies to Kirk Herbstreit. We just went a little long, but we'll get him rescheduled soon. For Matt Bruning and Austin Nace, I'm Felix Sharp. Good night and good luck. Oh man, I always have to take like parenting. Well, more recently,
all we could hear was swearing, smacking, and crying. I don't know what happened.
I never even heard of some of those words you were using.
I just need saying
they're Kalamazoo words. They don't use those anywhere else.
Kalamazoo, stand up.
Oh man, it's good. He comes out. Carter comes out, and has a smirk on his face because he knows he's supposed to be in bed. And if I wasn't doing anything, he wouldn't, be paying attention. But because he knows I'm talking to a microphone to people, he wants to come and be funny. So,
yeah, like father, like son.
Yeah.
Who do you think is more technologically advanced?
Carter.
Yeah, Carter.
Well, he definitely knows how to find his YouTube kids. So we'll see.
Oh God, I'm back up again.
Scott Fisher and
no, GM. I'm not loving my Scott Fishbowl team right now. Hang on, I got to do this. No, I'm in a mock Devy mock draft. I didn't realize I was back up again.
Man, I can't wait till the season starts so we can have some real debates again. Because, it's hard. I'm getting you guys a show sheet late because it's hard to think about what content to produce. Oh man.
Well, I guess we can save some of that for not viewing audience stuff. But there's some stuff we could do. I just don't know if you guys want to do it or not. Dude, is it really not?
Those pictures you sent, by the way, were awesome, Matt.
Yeah, I replied back to him with the thing we talked about in the Founders channel about the background thing. So he just wanted to get an idea of which one we liked.
I like
so that he can move forward. So yeah, I told him I wanted like a late night show vibe to it. So and that's I like that one too. But I figured I'd send it so you guys could see it and tell me what you thought.
Yeah, that looks really cool.
I don't know who to go here. I think I might go Jackson Smith and Jay.
Do it. Never have too much JSN.
I agree.
Austin, you guys were texting earlier about the GM League.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why they're roasting me because I said I was going to take Carson Strong, but I didn't realize he went early. That shocked me.
I'm going to be honest. I had no idea he went. I did not know he went either.
I think Shaq did. Yeah.
I'm convinced he's going to be a first-round draft pick.
I had 2 extra picks in the first 4 rounds, so I felt like I had a little more house money to play with there.
I have a lot.
That's me in the East.
In the East, in the East, I have a lot. I got 2 seconds. I might have 2 thirds too, and 2 fourths.
I think I have 2 thirds and 2 fifths. So I only have 1 extra pick in this one.
I really wanted Mayer to make it back to me, and I was going to go Mayer and Downs, and Mayer went the pick before me. I was like, there wasn't any. Those were like my last 2 kind of guys in that tier. Like I was like,
Man, I thought that I had taken off auto draft because I wanted to think more when my pick came up. But I mean, whatever. I do have JoJo Earl like in every single league though.
Can't get him in the other one now, so
I know. But I mean, I could have waited to take him. I'm pretty sure I could have waited another 2 rounds or so. Is that Torrey Horton?
That's I can't think of another Horton wide receiver. I like him. I'm stashing him everywhere. I don't know, Shane. I don't know how much of this, or I talk a lot about them on the C2C pod. That next wave of Nevada offense, I'm buying all of it. Millen, Spiker.
I just ranked him today, right. Millen.
I was hyping him up for you. Let's get you ready. Yeah? Nevada offense. Let's go.
Wolfpack?
Yeah. yeah.
We used to do that all the time in college about NC State. We just go Wolfpack.
Oh, Wolfpack, let's go.
Wolfpack.
I came in late to the discussion. I was actually just looking up something on Tim Beck, their offense coordinator. So
Nevada's offense coordinator?
Oh, okay. Oh,
no, the offense coordinator for NC State, Tim Beck.
We don't need 2 Felixes in one video stream.
He's going to show us how he parents.
No, okay.
Rolling up the sleeves.
Doesn't have any sleeves.
Is that a mustache guy?
Clemson guy here. Is that a mustache guy, Austin? I don't know.
I don't know what he means by that.
I don't either. You can't talk, Felix, because you're going to send that annoying ass sound through the whole thing. There you go.
Listen, I just wanted to see, I'm testing out another camera. I wanted to see what it looked like, which I probably need to put it right here to really figure out how it will look.
Shane, how do you think Clemson is going to do this year?
Well, he can't talk back to us, so
he can type into the comments, so he can say he thinks they're going to do good or not. That's the whole point of comments.
Luke, that is a mustache guy. Yes. I don't know if you guys listen to that shit.
Yes, I did. Yeah. Yeah, because I'm not even going to lie. I was working on, I may have recorded on my phone some of the podcast, some of the things that you guys said. I was going to try and work up a video because Colin and Pace will be the guy running back by week 5. Okay. You think they go undefeated?
Somebody just released that as like a bold prediction, and I don't remember where I read that, but I was reading a bold prediction. It was like Pace is going to be the lead guy.
I think I've got something pretty funny for Colin selling out, since apparently he'll sell out for anything, according to the last podcast. And then I don't know if you went back and listened to the last episode, but there's one word that you guys in like a matter of, I'd say 15 minutes, like said probably 20 times when talking about a certain position. So.
Oh, God. Now I have to go back and listen to it again.
I might have a little counter. There's a very popular, this might give away, this is a very popular home improvement show that you and Colin maybe photoshopped into and talked about. Yeah, Austin, you probably have no idea because you're like 10 years old. You ever heard of Home Improvement? Tim Toolman Taylor?
I am familiar, but I've never watched
Western Michigan University. Allen.
There we go, Luke. So Luke definitely listened to the last episode. He's toolsy. This guy's toolsy. That guy's toolsy. Yeah, I mean, you guys said that word so much.
No,
like I'm sitting, I'm like, just like sitting there in my office listening to it. So I recorded all of it. I was working on a little video to put together for it. It's just hard to do because I don't have like the video, so it's like me just clipping it into different stuff. But yeah. It was kind of
I was too wrapped up in Colin trying to say that something was obviously obvious.
Yeah, I know.
He's trying to describe is that this No.
Tim Allen from the Detroit area. I'm pretty sure he went to Western.
Oh, I didn't even say that. DJ will show out and our defense will be lights out with everyone returning. Speaking to it. Well, you know what? I can just bring it. So, because I know you listen to the Late Kick, Felix. Do you, Austin? I don't know what podcast.
Not consistently, but I will on occasion. Yeah.
So he mentioned something on there that is very true, and I don't know if you guys want to do it, but everybody loves to get those conference breakdowns, and we are now like 6 weeks away from college football starting off. If we want to talk about that stuff, so might be something
worth breakdowns on this show.
Yeah. So we can put it in debate fashion. I imagine there's going to be some are any of us going to pick Alabama to win the SEC? Who knows? Tune in next week. You know, there's different ways that we can form it into.
And that's
like, you know, is the Ohio State University going to win the Big Ten? I don't know. Tune in 2 weeks. This might be something worth talking about.
I can't wait for the year where Drew Aller takes him down. I don't even like that.
Dude, who was I talking? I think it was Dwight. We were talking about that because I
stop with the fucking markers.
Sorry, I'm bored. I can't help it. Sorry.
He just became a boss lady. Stop with the markers.
I've never seen Austin so mad before.
Stop with the
markers.
He thinks he's Travis Barker out here, you know. Just
I am Travis. Anyways, no, because I know you're not as big on him as I am, but Michigan State getting a guy like Caden Hauser, then you got Aller coming in there as well. McCarthy will still be there likely in 2 years with those guys coming. I mean, there are a lot of good quarterbacks coming. I mean, granted, Ohio State's got Quinn Ewers coming in there, but still, they've got a lot of good quarterbacks coming in. I mean, I like Singleton as well, who committed to Penn State earlier this week. So
Gavin Winsett.
I think. I forgot about that, Ruck. I mean, I don't know if they'll be able to beat Ohio State, but he's definitely a better quarterback than they've had there in a while. So, yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Sorry, Jay. Okay, I'll stop.
Oh, Jay's still in the chat. Jay, thank you for the compliment on my haircut. Appreciate that.
Well, shit. Since we have so many of the, I'm just gonna put it on here. I don't care that Felix said no. Since we got so many of these people in the listener league.
About to get a Discord together here or something. Group me.
For those of you who are in here, we're just going to run it right now. If I can find my tab. There it is.
All right. I got stretch.
Draft position?
Yeah. Felix, are you ready to mash your button so that you can go faster?
Here comes another Mahomes share. I can feel it.
All right. So
somebody said that to me that was not a part of that conversation. And I was like, how did that become a thing? How did somebody hear that?
What are you talking about?
Me matching my phone.
You said that. You said that
I said it on the show.
I don't know if you said it on the show, but you said it to me in Austin. You're like, I pressed.
Somebody else said that to me.
Yeah, we brought it up on the after show. Okay. We brought it up on the after show last week because you brought up. You said that you were matching your phone to get your guy to go faster. That's not how it works, Felix. All right, so I'm going to shuffle it 10 times. You can see everybody's name right there. I just went straight off what you have your name in right now on the league page. So
Wait. Is this for draft position or selecting your –
Selecting your picks. Are we doing – No, that's why we need to do it now. That's why I was saying we need to do it now. Are we doing third-round reversal on this commission, Austin, like Shaq did, or no?
I hadn't planned on it.
Okay, that's fine with me.
When did Shaq do a third-round reversal?
Yeah,
on the NFL GM one, and maybe that's because it's 4 leagues altogether. We did a third round. No, not in the draft for the picks.
Oh no, I think it's big. Yeah, it's just too late.
All right, so
be a third-round
reversal. What the fuck?
If there's only.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's what I said. Maybe it was because it was the 4 leagues because you're picking different draft spots for all 4 leagues, but he did it in that. So as everybody can see, not giving anybody a higher chance value of winning. All that shit looks good. I should have gone faster. Oh well. So this doesn't take forever. No, she never says that. We've had this conversation.
I'm right on the hash.
A girl can hope, but
come on.
I guess I can make this big screen, huh? Make it easier for everybody to see.
Oh, run. Why is
Oops.
Yeah, I know. That's my bad. I should have put it on faster.
Santa Claus. I guess is that Dylan?
I think so. Yeah, he put his name as Santa Claus on the league page, so that's what I put it at on here.
Oh, God damn it. Why aren't I running faster? I'm
almost in like third to last place here. My dude ain't doing nothing. It's going to end up being Kevin's going to win it.
Here comes little Austin.
Oh, shit. Is British Kev ahead?
If Austin gets the first
British
pick
Kev's in like fourth. We're going to rerun it if Austin gets first.
Go me. Come on. God, this is better than any sporting event I've watched in the last like 2 weeks.
I am going to get last place, it feels like.
First four, like Chris, me, Felix, and Matt.
No, I'm going to be last. I'm like down here at the bottom.
What are you doing? You're dropping the ball, man.
Looks like Michael is going to
Come on, Austin.
Someone's going to make like a big sprint right at the end and get it. Come on. I'm rooting for Kev. Nope, Michael it is. Or Michael. I don't know how you say it. Sorry.
He said it's Michael. He said it's Michael.
Okay. Felix is going to get second. Austin's going to get third. Watch.
I choked.
Jesus, my guy like rolled across the finish line.
Yeah.
Oh, this is embarrassing.
Ooh, do I want this is going to be interesting.
Poor Luke is really getting crushed right now.
He's about to catch up to Brandon, though. Looks like no, he's going to get last.
Brandon had too many Celtics.
God, 12 pick. That's fucking ridiculous. Poor Luke. Okay, well, Luke, we don't need to watch you finish. But
still running.
Congratulations, though, but the 14th pick. So we'll get that once Austin gets the chat put up. We'll get that in there. Jay, I didn't even see your comment. Run, damn it! What'd you get, Jay? What did Jay get? Oh, you got fourth, Jay. That's not bad. You can still get pretty easy one of your top picks, more than likely.
Luke stopped for a water break.
Well, go ahead. Who was first?
Sorry, Luke. First is Michael. It's Michael, then Felix, Avery, Jay, Austin, Josh Corbett.
I'll DM Michael right now because he DM'd me after the show to say he told me the pronunciation of his name. That's how
okay. So we'll work on getting, for those of you still watching
we need a Discord
or listen, we'll create a Discord channel in the next day or two so we can start getting these picks because we probably need to start picking. If the GM draft is any indication of how slow some people can draft, we might need to fire this up soon because we're getting pretty close. Bijan slides to 4. Well, I mean, you don't know. You could still maybe get 1-1 in the college draft at 14. Probably not, but you never know.
I was so glad when I saw Ben. Who was Ben? Who was Ben in the GM league?
That's Teach. His name in the Discord is Teach. So, Luke, just to clarify, that's not your actual draft spot. That is what pick you are. That's when you get to decide what pick. So you get the turn. So you get to make your first – you'll get to decide technically your 2 picks before anybody else. But I would imagine 1-1's not going to be available for you. On
the person that finished first in that race can pick whatever draft slot, NFL or NCAA he wants. And then, so on and so forth. And you just have to have a slot on each side when it gets to the end. Yeah.
I made a change at the top of my quarterback rankings.
Awesome. What'd you do? I cannot wait for
DJ. One.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I had him 2, but I just
better late than never, Mr. Sharp.
Was he's like number 3 overall? He was number 2 for me. Who you have him number 1?
I've had him 1 for a couple months. Yeah, I think I bumped him around the same time I bumped Boutte up to my wide receiver.
He just seems
the markers.
He just seems much safer to me than Spencer Rattler.
I think so too. He has way more upside.
Me and Colin are technically weighing him down. We both have him at 3, but he's at I mean, technically, he's the second quarterback. He's rank average is 1.8. Rattlers, no, he's QB1. Rank average, he's 1.8. Rattlers 1.9. Sam House 2.4.
I think mine.
DJ's moved up to 1.
I think changing him just moved him up to 1.
I mean, that won't show on the site, unfortunately, but
yeah, I moved him to 1, and I moved Howell down to 2. I Howell at 1 forever.
Part of the reason why I moved him to One is because of demeanor. Like, to me, if there's a Ryan Leaf type personality, it seems like it's Spencer. Like, it's Spencer Rattler. And if you're splitting hairs, DJU has the temperament of Eli Manning, and it's just like he's just as toolsy. Maybe not as good at like on the move yet as Spencer Rattler, but
I still have Howell above Rattler too.
So do I. I think me and you are the only ones, Moxley.
Yeah.
I don't think unless Rattler comes out and answers like every single question, I would be surprised if I changed it. At this point. Howell is so safe. Like Howell was like the safest, like one of the safest C2C assets I think you can have. Like I just think he's so insulated. Like regardless of what happens with Rattler, regardless of what happens with the three quarterbacks, like Howell's just safe.
The one thing that worries me about Howell, I was not worried about it at all until I listened to Felix interview Kyle Francis and listen to him talk about. That's the one thing that made me a little bit worried about it, but I still have him as my one. Like that's why I took him. Austin was talking about that GM league. That's why I took Howell because I didn't want to go quarterback. But as the same thing, my quarterbacks in that league are Justin Fields and Daniel Jones, and that's it. I got Andy Dalton because I don't think Justin Fields is going to start off the season. So I was like, well, I'll grab Andy Dalton to back him up until he starts. So I need to get another quarterback. So that's why I went Howell at pick 5. But yeah, when I remember that still sticks in my head when Kyle said that. I was like,
Francis was saying that the NFL does not like Phil Longo's offensive skill position players. And I mean, that's
like he went through a whole track history thing there with Felix. It was very interesting to listen to.
AJ Brown and DK Metcalf.
Yeah. De'Ami Brown this year.
Yeah. I mean, even Daz Newsome. Yeah.
So I've said this with my light.
I saw that.
Yeah, I just blew a fuse or something.
It's like, are we about to see like the Unfriended movie come like alive right here? We're gonna see some like ghosts and shit. Right. So I will freak the fuck out. I'm just letting you guys know.
No, I don't know what happened, but no, what I was gonna say was, my perspective on these types of players that there's NFL questions about. I feel confident if they're being mocked nationally at the high end of drafts, right? So like that never happened with De'Ami. Like De'Ami was always mocked like late second, third. Like he never really rose enough in the national media to really ask that, like answer that question. And Howell was already being mocked on the top 5, like fairly consistently. And this is the same thing that I have with Treylon Burks, right? Like people have questions about whether or not Arkansas can produce like a wide receiver like Treylon Burks and he can get drafted in the first. Like if the media is already there and like pundits are already there, I have very little concern about it because there are people who are plugged in that are making these mocks. And I feel somewhat confident dismissing a lot of that concern because I have already seen it in mocks happen. That like I just have a higher comfort level versus like if Howell wasn't being taken in a draft, like mocked in the top 5 consistently, I'd be so off on Howell. I'd be like, okay, the NFL doesn't like him. I'm willing to move on from that. Like I have no issue doing so, but I feel good about him because I've seen that.
Mm-hmm. And the funny thing is he's going to be on a better team than Rattler. I think Rattler is going to go number 1 because he has the upside and we might as well call him Houston, Texas quarterback, Spencer Rattler. And you're going to see Sam Howell land maybe into. I would love him. I would love Sam Howell in Detroit behind that offensive line, and they've already got the running. They just need to draft a wide receiver. I would love to see Sam Howell in Detroit. I don't think it's going to happen. But
Sam Howell and Treylon Burks in Detroit.
We have they've got 2 first-round picks, right?
Yep.
Yeah, but it's the 30. It's 30. It's going to be 30 something. I feel like it's going to be 32, 31 or 32 because it's the Rams pick. But they do have 2 first-round draft picks. But Treylon Burks is. He's a top 15 player for me. I mean,
He's still my wide receiver 1, so like I'm not going to dispute it. But like I would be surprised if he went that high.
Well, who would take them? All right, then that means that there's not going to be another wide receiver drafted in the top 15 or so.
The best chance I think is
Garrett Wilson,
I think
Chris
Garrett
Olave,
Wilson.
him, George Pickens is probably not going to go high. He's not.
I don't think Olave goes over Burks though.
You think Olave goes over Burks?
I don't. No. I think Wilson will. I don't think Olave
could. I could think Wilson could.
I think Wilson will be the top drafted wide receiver. I don't know.
Olave strikes me as like a back of the first round.
Olave will go in the first.
Yeah.
I'm fairly confident about that.
I would say he's at worst a top 40 pick. I don't know if he'll go first round, but I don't see him sliding like past mid-second Olave.
I would not take him. I would not take him there, like in the first. I think that's probably a bad value proposition for Olave, but I think it'll happen. I would be surprised if it didn't happen, if we're being honest. Like I think he's a first round pick.
Because Colin's not here. I think me and him are the only guys that are as big on Bell as at least on the site. But I don't know if Bell goes over Burks.
I don't think Bell is a first round draft pick.
Yeah, so so it's Wilson. So unless I'm missing out, I'll be honest, I don't really pay that close attention to the defensive side of the ball. So unless this defensive side of the ball, offensive line, everything is just loaded this year, I don't see how Burks doesn't go in the first round.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point, though. I don't think David Bell's a first round pick. Like I was surprised Rashad Bateman ended up in the first. Rashad Bateman.
Well, Rondell Moore didn't go in the first round.
I didn't think he was ever going to go in the first.
That's because of his. I think that's more because of his size than anything else, and the injury history. He still went in the second round. He got better draft capital I thought he was going to get.
I don't see. I'd be really surprised if David Bell got better draft capital than Rondell Moore.
I think he does.
I think there's a chance, but I don't think he's going in the first. I think he goes end of the first round, depending on who finishes. Depending on who finishes at the end. If the Rams don't have their pick, but if you're looking at like trying to think of if the Chiefs are there, if it's Chiefs, Rams, or I don't think the Chiefs are taking a wide receiver at the end, but I could see him going early second too. I still think because of what Bell can do, he's going to get decent draft capital. I think he'll get better than Rondell Moore. I would be surprised if he goes first round, but I'd say it's like 50-50 right now. If he goes out there again and produces, 3 years of production with the way he can separate, I don't think NFL teams are there. Someone will take a shot on him. I don't think that he has traits that NFL teams are looking for currently. Like I don't think he's a great separator. Like I think a lot of his catches come in contested situations. Like I just don't see that with David Bell. Like, I think that his profile is similar-ish to Rashad Bateman, but I think Rashad Bateman was a better player. And so and he went at the end of the first. So I would be surprised if Bell went in the first. But I'm happy if he does, because he's a great metrics profile. That makes me more in on him. I'm not going to complain. I like David Bell, just not as much. I just don't know if he's a guy the NFL teams are. I don't know if he has traits the NFL teams are looking for currently.
I need new players to talk about. That's why I need the season to start. I need the players that we're not paying attention to. I need some of those guys to.
I wish I had another pick coming up in our 16-team draft, because I have a player that I really want. But
in the college side,
yeah.
Do you not have another pick?
No, I do, but I don't pick for 40 picks.
You probably go weeks on end without picking in that league. Because in that league, every pick takes a day.
I know. Well, I took Jordan Hornbeak and James Blackstrain, which is why I took them both, and I was like,
Blackstrain is for Georgia Tech.
Yeah, and then I was like, shit. That's what prompted my tweet earlier. I was like, I got to get out ahead of these guys now that they're all over Austin and Colin talking all about them.
You guys talked about Blackstrain?
Yeah,
his buzz is really big.
Well, they were. I think they were talking about him in the spring game.
He's in that article. I don't know who wrote it. I know it's on 24/7 that it was top 100 impact freshman. I know Colin referenced it. Yeah,
Chris
Colin
Hummer,
said earlier in the pod too. Like he's had a lot of buzz, and he's a 4-star guy.
What kind of player? Like I just know the name. I don't know, his physical attributes or the type of receiver that he is. But what would you expect?
Probably more technical than like athletic. Is that a fair? You're on mute, Felix.
Okay, here
it's your cord or whatever. Again, I think that you said was messing up.
Play style comparison.
What's his play style comparison?
Yeah.
I don't have one.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's a good size though. I think he's either like 6'1" or 6'2", and he's probably already like 180, 190. I don't remember what his. He's like 185, 190. I don't remember what his 24/7 weight was, but he's good size. He's just not an uber athlete.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
And I think Austin, you said that as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
he's big, and you look at him and you see a Georgia Tech uniform on him, and you expect him to run like a 4.3 40 and like jump 45-inch vert, and he's not that at all.
Okay. That was a really good compliment that Brad from Roto Lounge gave you today. I saw it really late.
I love Brad. Yeah, he gave me my first ever writing gig like a year and a half ago with him. So
that was really nice.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He's a good guy.
I'm still just like it hasn't been a year. It hasn't been a year since we've done any of this.
I mean, just look at what Colin always says. We've barely been 4 months. It's barely been 4 months. You always go a year, and he's like, it's only been.
Well, that's because that's the for business. They say all businesses, like the majority of businesses, fail within a year. I mean, we're not going to fail. It's just like is somebody going to have over 4,000 followers in a year, or how big will the format get overall? I love the fact that Damon Parson said that he was doing things for C2C purposes.
Yeah.
Anytime. By the way, Colin securing the fucking name of the format. Because anytime I see the name, it's like it's just advertising for it. Yeah. It's just advertising for it. It just boxes everybody out. Which is why I'm gonna text it to you. Text it to you guys.
Yeah, I mean, good luck to Damon Parson, because that's actually what I meant, Matt. Not about like doing all the write-ups individually. Like one person trying to do a bunch of C2C work is like a huge dam, and the holes keep bursting in, and you try to stick a finger in it. Like that's a lot for one person.
Right.
Yeah. It's a lot for 10 people to do.
Well, I don't think he's doing, from the conversations we've had, I don't think he's trying to do like, he's just focusing on like the top guys of the class. Like he's trying to look at who's the next guys coming. Like that's why he was talking about Travion Henderson. I don't know who else he's going. I don't think he's going to go through like you're going through, Alfred, myself right now are going through, like trying to get through all of these fucking players in the 2022 class.
Hard.
I don't think he's doing that. I think he's going through like top players, because he still does a lot of NFL stuff as well.
Yeah,
it's probably more like Devy depth.
No, well, I mean, he said C2C, but so I don't know if he uses C2C, because that's what I told him. Because he talked one day about looking at like some high school players, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm going deep into Devy." It's like, "Nah, bro, you're looking at high school players. You're talking C2C now. You're not talking Devy." And so that's why he started using C2C. I think, I don't know that for a fact, but he kept talking about Devy stuff, and I was like, "Yeah, if you're doing that deep, man, that's C2C territory right there." So.
I feel like there's just so little to talk about. If we were going to make this like Devy only, there's like in a strict Devy format, how many players are actually relevant? 30 maybe?
Yeah. Without I mean just like throwing darts.
Without just throwing darts, right.
But you're throwing darts after a pick like
you are, but there's like that person, like Alfred and I talked about, the ADP diverges after what, round 4?
Yeah. Well, that's what
round 3.
I think we said to Jarek the other day, right? Like the gap between 108 and like the middle to end of second is way bigger than like a 4-round gap 2 rounds later. Like it's just like
early 4th is where I start to like not feel like great about anybody. I mean, because I always talk about like safety in my early rounds. It's like, as you know, Josh Downs feels kind of safe, but there's a chance that he never does shit. I mean,
Yeah.
That's why. I mean, I approach it the same way. Like I approach it from a safety perspective, but that is also why I have Michael Mayer in like every single league I'm in.
Mhm.
I just think he's like
I was so
locked in
mad.
first rounder.
I got sniped on him today. It's hurt me so bad.
He was one of the players that I was considering, that I wanted to consider taking with the third pick, with my third pick. But
I've taken him in like the second. Like I think the latest I've taken him is like mid-second. I just reach on him everywhere.
I was looking at his weight the other day, and Notre Dame had him listed at 245. Like, there's no way that dude is 245 when that's the same.
No, he's like 255.
I thought he was like 265.
He's right now he's listed at 264.5, 249. But I think he's bigger than that too. Like he's definitely
because that's what Tommy Tremble weighed in at.
He's bigger than Tremble too.
He's bigger than Tremble.
Bigger than Tremble. I love Michael Mayer. Like he's probably one of my favorite Devy assets. I have him everywhere. I'm a little bit concerned about his athleticism because I know he isn't a super athlete. Like that's the only concern I have about
his speed score should be ridiculous though. I think his speed score. I mean, even if he runs like a 4.7, I think 265.
He run like a 4. I mean, it's high school, but didn't he run like a 4.87 or like a 4.9 something?
Even still,
I
think he's going to be 260 by the time he. This is one of the reasons why I like Luke Kroll, is that he's just a huge dude. But when he gets that ball on one of those drag routes and then turns upfield, nobody wants to tackle that dude. Nobody wants to tackle that dude.
Who do you guys think does better this year in Scott Fish scoring? Julio or DJ Moore?
Who? What was the first name?
Julio or DJ Moore
I'll
in
tell
Scott
you.
Fish scoring?
Julio.
DJ Moore. I don't think there's enough volume for Julio.
I mean, that's I don't know.
DJ Moore
I think
finished
I'd
as
go
wide
Julio.
receiver 22 last year, which feels low.
Are you looking at the Scott Fishbowl scoring?
Yeah.
So last year, well, again, it's Atlanta though. Julio finished 2.
Didn't Moore finished what? Wide receiver 22 or wide receiver 23?
Well, regular PPR, I know Moore finishes 25.
Yeah, I knew that Moore
behind
was
Samuel and Robbie Anderson. I think Anderson finished ahead. It was Anderson was the top one, then Samuel. But Samuel was getting a lot of the rushing work as well. And then Moore finishes 25.
I still like Moore. I think last year was like floor for DJ Moore. Like I don't
Yeah, but I'm not drafting for floor in round 6 though.
Yeah, but I think his ceiling is higher than Julio's ceiling. I don't think Julio represents that ceiling. The only way Julio hits a ceiling is if Henry goes down. I think the way that DJ Moore hits the ceiling is a lot likelier, which is just a passing offense, which is like wouldn't be surprised.
I think Julio could actually score more touchdowns than he has in his career in Atlanta. Because they just never seem to focus on him down at the red zone, where I think that they will do. I mean, they used to use Jonnu Smith for that stuff. Jonnu's gone. No, wait, Jonnu's gone.
Yeah.
He's not in Tennessee anymore. I don't think they're going to hit A.J. Brown with that. I mean, yeah, you do have to worry about Henry, but
yeah. Well, Ferkser was their end zone target last year. I think he had like 6 touchdowns.
Man, Ferkser's just like Chris Herndon. Everybody keeps wanting him to happen. It's just not going to happen, people.
No, he stinks. But I have a lot of Julio. Like I'm a big Julio fan, but I think DJ Moore has like a really sneaky path to being like a top 5 wide receiver this year. Like and maybe that's just me being a DJ Moore stan. But
my biggest fear with Moore is Sam Darnold.
But he just had Teddy Bridgewater.
And now Sam Darnold has Joe Brady.
Correct. But he was still third. Well, so you lose Curtis Samuel. You lose Curtis Samuel, so that's going to help some, right? Because I think he's still – what was he in targets on? Again, he finished third, though, with Teddy Bridgewater. I think, granted, Sam Darnold's better probably as an overall player, but Teddy Bridgewater is the safer option. I feel like he probably might have run that offense a little bit better than what we might expect Sam Darnold to do at least this year. You also have CMC coming back, who they did not have last year, who's going to eat into targets as well, because you can't tell me they're not going to pass him the ball or let him run the ball. So I don't know. You're asking.
So the thing that makes me so DJ Moore had like 1,200 yards with Teddy Bridgewater, which feels tough to do. Teddy Bridgewater throws like 5-yard routes, but his ADOT was so low, and Robbie Anderson was the one that was used in like low yard situations. Yeah. If Sam Darnold's ADOT is like a little bit higher, I think that benefits DJ Moore more than anybody. And I mean, Moore can play any position on the field. Like he can play outside, he can play inside, he can really line up anywhere. He's dynamic. So I think all Moore needs to succeed is a higher ADOT passer and positive touchdown variance. And it's like touchdown's a big question because he's never had more than 4.
More feels like a floor play where if I hit like Tyreek and like some other like super variant like a running back earlier, then maybe I go more for the floor. But I actually think I have a pretty safe roster in that league, so I just took Julio.
Yes, I mean, Moore had 118 targets last year. It was a lot more than I thought. I don't know. Like, I loved Carolina last year. I was big on them getting Brady, and I thought Bridgewater was going to be decent. CMC coming back too, because I think that's what boosted Curtis Samuel up so much, was not having CMCs. They were using Samuel in the rushing game. He was getting a lot of those quick targets off the line. I don't know. I don't know what to think about him. I would have taken Julio. So, I mean, that's who I would have gone with. Just I think he's going to be – I mean, I don't remember if we talked about it on here. I know I talked about – yeah, we talked about with the Julio trade. Like, Ryan Tannehill the past 4 years has actually been one of the most consistent quarterbacks and put up more points per drop back outside of Lamar Jackson's the only one who's put up more points per drop back than Ryan Tannehill in the past 4 years. So regardless of how much they rely on Derrick Henry – yeah, exactly.
Than Patrick Mahomes over a certain time.
Yeah, like that's the thing. Everybody talks about Derrick Henry's the offense. They use Ryan Tannehill a lot, and I think adding a guy like Julio just benefits that offense overall. Granted, you have to run. I mean, Tannehill runs more, and he does get a lot of rushing touchdowns as well. But
Tennessee is like bottom 3 in pass attempts. A lot of that is Tannehill rushing production touchdowns. Like
right, but AJ Brown. But AJ Brown still finishes up there. That's my point. Is we're also.
Well, I love AJ Brown. He's a freak. Like his path is like Rashad Bateman's path to success, right?
We're all
that's
assuming
a very narrow path, though.
Everybody's just assuming that the new offensive coordinator is going to do exactly what Arthur Smith did. Arthur Smith's not there anymore. We don't know that they're just going to hand the ball to Derrick Henry 30 times a game.
They could.
I would assume they brought in Julio Jones for a reason, and it wasn't just we just want to have Julio on our team. I imagine they have some kind of game plan for him there. So I just think all the people say, it's just going to be the Derrick Henry show. Ryan Tannehill can't pass the ball. Like, they don't make that trade for no reason.
So what is Julio's target ceiling?
I think he could get around 100 targets. I'd say probably 110 is his max. Low end.
I think
90.
he can get 120. I think he gets 120 to 130 this year, easily. I think it's like 60% of the targets between him and AJ Brown.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think they're going to anybody else. It's going to be
40
those
or
two.
Split between everybody else. So
I mean, AJ Brown only had 106 last year,
but he was injured. He missed at least one game, if not two. Yeah, I think
left another one early. Yeah.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, I think they can both get 120 targets.
You lose Jonnu, who was kind of like Ryan Tannehill's safety blanket earlier in the season as well. So I'm with you. Like I said, I would have gone Julio. Julio's kind of guy I'm hoping will continue to fall in ours. We've only had we just saw like a major wide receiver.
Are all three of you in the Scott Fishbowl? I mean, I know you two are. Chris, are you?
No, I don't think
I'm not. I've been in the last 3 years, and I'm not this year. And I was gonna say, like, at first I was like, that sucks. But honestly, at this point, not only do I not care, but like I'd rather have someone else in that has not been in before. Like I don't need to be in it. Like it doesn't that doesn't matter to me. I guess.
I wasn't sure if I was going to get in, and if I didn't, I'm not going to like take it personally like some people do. It is what it is. It's a cool experience. I enjoy being in it, but it's not going to be the end of the world if I don't make it in. I'm in it with a bunch of, I think there's 3 first timers in ours, and it is cool seeing like how excited they are. They're asking all these questions. Like I do think that is a cool part about that they let so many new people in every single year. So yeah, I'm with you.
I'm totally fine giving my spot to someone who like has applied for like 3 years and hasn't got in. Like that doesn't bother me in any. Like I don't care at all. Like that. Yeah, I think that's great. Like I like that Scott gets as many people in as possible.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I agree. I love the way they do it. How deep are you into your draft, Austin?
I just made my 6th pick.
Okay. So we finally started making some progress. I think we're in the 5th round now after like only getting through like 5 picks in day 1.
All right, I'm going to head to bed, guys.
Oops.